clever people, welcome to my 10 reviews in one video, catching up for all the solo reviews I have not caught up with recently. Now you may be confused, why am I in a new background? We were going to post an announcement video on this, but we had issues with that. I have moved away from San Diego, which is where I used to live with Connor. So I'm living in a different place and we can't shoot reviews together that way. However, I will still be able to shoot reviews and he'll still be able to shoot reviews, so we thought that we'd put him on the same channel. So he'll be shooting his own separate reviews, I'll be shooting my own separate reviews, and that's how it goes. So here's my new background and let's just get right into it. Alright, our first review up is Me Before You. Me Before You is a film about a woman who can't find a job, and eventually she lands a job helping someone who is slowly dying. And let me just say that this film is terrible. This film is just completely awful. I don't understand why anyone would like this movie. It's insanely cliche and predictable. There's practically every single plot point throughout the film. You're like, that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen. The acting is just terrible, especially from the main actress. I mean, not all the acting's terrible. Like, the main guy, he's fine in some scenes, and he looks like he's just trying to do something, unlike all the other actors who are just lazily going through their parts. And the main actress was just annoying. I don't know why anyone in the film would like her, because she's so obnoxious and annoying. It's a really long movie. It feels very long. It's boring. The dialogue is just awful. I don't know who wrote that, but whoever did should be fired. And the jokes, there's so many jokes that they try throughout the film and they just fall completely flat. I did not like Me Before You, and that is why I give it a 3 out of 10. The next movie up is Alice Through the Looking Glass. Now, I have seen the remake of Alice in Wonderland. The original Alice in Wonderland, which I have right here, is a film that I enjoy. I think it's a good film. I don't think it's a classic like everyone thinks it is, or thinks it deserves to be, but I do think it's an enjoyable film. The remake, I haven't seen for a very, very long time. I don't have the fondest memories of it. So I went into this one with semi-bad expectations, and that's sort of the movie that I got, a semi-bad movie. There's a lot of issues that I have with the film, but there's none that blare out and are a huge, terrible thing. Like, there's this whole subplot of Alice being a ship navigator. Not only does it come completely out of nowhere, but it affects the script and it affects the whole plot at the end of the movie, but it really felt forced in there. I didn't like that. The acting and the dialogue are both pretty bad. I mean, there's some scenes where the acting's decent, and I went back and forth between saying that the acting was good and bad on the notes that I took during the film, and I ended up going with bad just because it eventually gets tiring. At first you think, oh, okay, this is fine acting, but then it just gets tiring when it's the same exact thing and there's no variations in the characters. The dialogue is also bad. It's a very long movie. It doesn't have that long of a runtime. I forgot its runtime, frankly, but its runtime just feels really long. It feels like a 2.5-hour film, even though it's not, and that just makes it quite boring. The characters are all annoying, especially the Mad Hatter this time around. He was just... God, Johnny Depp really needs to go back to what he was doing well with his drama roles, because his new whole weird makeup in my face just... it doesn't work. The plot is completely uninteresting, and there's a reason for why two sisters are rivaling, and why they've been mad at each other. You know, the two sisters, the one with the big head and the Anne Hathaway one. And, oh my god, the reasoning behind it is just terrible. Now, the set and costume design are good, but there's not much to say about this film, and that's why I give Alice Through the Looking Glass a 4 out of 10. The next one up is Warcraft. Warcraft is a film I was interested in seeing. It's based on the video game, and I heard a lot of bad things about Warcraft, so I was nervous, and I'm just gonna say, I liked it. I know a lot of people hated it, but overall, I enjoyed this movie in a guilty pleasure way. One, the CGI looks great. I was scared when I went to Comic-Con and saw the trailer for it. I'm like, oh, that CGI doesn't look too good, but in the film it looked great, and it really created a really nice world that Duncan Jones directed really well. That's another thing, the direction in the film is very well done. Also, the main orc, Toby Kebbell, he does a great job not only with the acting but with the motion capture. That was just great. The action's really fun to watch. It's a very entertaining film. It has a nice score that goes along with the film, and the final action scene is I hate when people overuse this word, but it was epic. The final action scene was just epic. But while there are a lot of good things, there are also a lot of bad things. It's really hard to get into at first. Like, they start the film off with this big opening, scene, and there's an orc and a human that are about to fight. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got my blood pumping. And then after that, it just sort of lost me, and it took me about 70 minutes or 75 minutes or so to get back into it. And I finally got back into it in the third act, but it had just been a little too long. The acting from most everyone is pretty bad. Again, Toby Kebbell does well, and surprisingly, a lot of the orcs do pretty well, but it's the humans where the acting really fails. The pacing feels off. It's hard to explain, but the pacing, it just doesn't feel natural for the film. It lacks an emotional connection. You don't care about the characters too much. You just sort of watch them on screen. You don't have an emotional attachment to them, except for Toby Kebbell. And it should have been an hour longer, the whole film, because a lot of it just feels rushed, and there's a lot of things that happen, and it's kind of hard to understand at times. And there's a young mage character, and he's just terrible. He's just an awful character and was very annoying. And the ending, the only way they could have made it more obvious that they want a sequel is if they said Warcraft 2 coming summer 2019. That was just terrible. Alright, on to our next review, which is for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Out of the Shadows. Really long title. So this is a follow-up to the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 2014. And I did not see that movie, frankly, because I had no interest, and I had just seen Transformers Age of Extinction that year, and I was just tired of Michael Bay and Michael Bay-isms. So I went into this movie not expecting much. A lot of people said that it was entertaining, but to me, entertaining doesn't mean a good film. And I can say that this film is slightly entertaining, but it's pretty bad. The acting, oh god, the acting's bad from everyone. Not a single person really actually tried. The acting was terrible. Especially Megan Fox. She's a terrible actress. The dialogue is pretty bad, and everything in the movie feels expositional. It's literally just explaining what happens up until the end, and then you feel like all of the explaining, really, it didn't need to be there. A lot of the film was exposition. The villains, oh boy, wow, oh god, the villains hadn't been in this movie, I may have given this a 6 out of 10 or higher, but the villains are so terrible. They're terribly executed, they're terrible characters, they're terrible actors, just awful, and the writing is also pretty bad. Now, this film does have some fun action, it's somewhat entertaining, and it has some decent pacing, but it's not a memorable film, it's not even a good film. That's why I give Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 a 4.25 out of 10. Alright, the next one up is Love and Friendship, which I really do not have to say much about. Love and Friendship is based on the Jane Austen book that came out, and the film takes place in the 1790s. And I can say that this film was a well-done snooze fest, because this movie is boring. And if you may say, oh, you're just not the right audience for it. Okay, sure. But there are also some people in my audience that looked like they were the exact right age for it, and they were both asleep. So, this is just a really, really boring film. It's very slow. I mean, it's like, 5 minutes will go by and you thought it was 25. This movie it's an hour and 32 minutes, I believe, but it feels like 3 hours. It's a really slow-moving movie. It's supposed to be a comedy. That's what it's largely advertised as, but there wasn't much humor in this film. I didn't laugh, no one else in my theater laughed. It's not entertaining. The story isn't tied well together at all, and they had no better way to show the characters other than to literally just show their faces and have a written explanation underneath, and you forget most of the characters. Now, this film does have a really good costume set, makeup, and hairstyling design. All of it just looks great. This looks authentic to the 1790s. I want to know where they shot this movie, because it looks fantastic. It had some good use of music. The dialect in the movie, like, all the actors had to take it in the dialect of the 1790s, and that was a really well done aspect. The acting was good, and the script was also pretty good. And honestly, the best part of the film is just it felt like they felt like they went back to the 1790s and shot the movie because it just looks that great. But that can't really save Love and Friendship from being a really boring, slow, and forgettable movie, and that is why I give Love and Friendship a 5.5 out of 10. All right, the next one up is, oh god, Independence Day Resurgence. I have not seen the original Independence Day. I have not really ever had a want to or need to. And so I went into Independence Day Resurgence thinking, I don't think I'll hate this movie as much as other people do. And while I didn't hate it as much as some other people, this movie is terrible. This is an awful, atrocious pile of crap movie. I hated it. The acting from everyone is so bad. Even Jeff Goldblum, who a lot of people said was the best part of the movie, I didn't think he did well at all. I didn't think anyone did well at all. It was ridiculous. The action isn't fun or entertaining. It's just dull and boring to watch. The dialogue is just awful. The movie as a whole is so cliche. The comedy just falls completely flat. The ending, oh my god. They literally couldn't have made the ending more obvious. I know I said that about Warcraft a little bit earlier, but this is probably the worst ending I've ever seen put to film. This ending is so bad. It comes out of nowhere, forcing a sequel on you, and it's not even like it's leaving it open for a sequel. They literally say, I guess we could take the fight to them now. Ugh, the ending's awful, and the script makes the stupidest decision probably all year in a movie. Maybe not all year, there are some really stupid decisions in Gods of Egypt, but a character has a 7,300 day coma. Look, I know that there are some real life comas that last 10 years and 15 years, but do you really need to force a character in there? Couldn't you find a new character that was similar? Because I know that that's the same character from previous in the movie, but a 15-year coma is not logical. That's so stupid. I don't understand what the directors thought on making that a 7,300 day coma. What's the point? Now, as far as goods go for this movie, I guess it has a nice display of no chance of survival. It really did seem like they had no chance, but is that really a compliment? To think that this is the 7th worst movie of the year is just terrible. Man, this year has been awful. That's why I give Independence Day Resurgence a 2.25 out of 10. Alright, the next one up is Now You See Me 2. Now, the original Now You See Me, in case you can't tell, is a film I absolutely love. It's not super well made, but it's so entertaining. I can pop this in whenever and just enjoy it because it's a really, really fun and entertaining movie. And while Now You See Me 2 isn't as fun or entertaining as the first one, I think it's very similar to it. It's a very fun and entertaining movie, even though it may not be super well made. As I just said, the entertainment value is so unbelievably high for this movie. You can just pop it in or go to see it with friends, and you'll just be entertained throughout the entire film. It's a very humorous movie. There was more humor than I expected, more humor than the first one, and the humor actually works really well. I was laughing a few times with like one or two good, like laugh out loud moments. The humor does work really well. The performances and the chemistry among the cast, while sometimes it felt like they were overacting, it is pretty decent and it works well. Lizzie Chaplin, I didn't think was that good of an addition to the cast. I liked Isla Fisher way better in as a girl horseman, but because personally, I thought that Lizzie Chaplin was just trying too hard. And I know that she's supposed to play that character that's overly enthusiastic, but that just got annoying after a while. And there's one scene in the movie where they're passing cards to each other that sort of showed a little bit of it in the trailer, where they're passing the card to each other, and wow, that scene was so well done. Just the cinematography, how it was directed, the actors, how they acted it out. That was just a perfect scene. That was done so well. And the third act, personally, I thought that the first two acts really just felt uneven and felt strangely balanced, and that was a little hard. But in the third act, that's when it really put its feet on the ground and decided what it was going to be and became really entertaining. Now there are some bad things about this film, as there are for every single film. The opening is insanely predictable. You're like, yep, this is going to happen, and skip 10 seconds if you don't want to be spoiled. One of the characters' dads die, and it's so obvious what's going to happen because he's trying to pull off a magic trick, and oh my god, it's just so obvious that he's going to die. It was really, really terribly done. Again, the whole film feels uneven. The plot is really messy. It could have been directed way better. And some of the magic, I mean, in the first one, Now You See Me, there were a couple things that were impossible with magic, like the jumping through the money and disappearing, but this one just goes way overboard. Like, literally stopping rain and falling in a puddle and disappearing, and it just... I can suspend disbelief, but when you're going that insane with magic tricks, that's when I have a hard time suspending disbelief. And there's a romance in the film similar to the first one. I thought there was an unnecessary romance. This one also has a very unnecessary romance that really didn't need to be in there. But overall, Now You See Me 2 is a really entertaining film, and that's why I give it a 7 out of 10. Next one up is Central Intelligence. Central Intelligence is a film coming from Kevin Hart and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I went into this movie just hoping that they had good chemistry. That's all I was really hoping for, and that's really what I did get. Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson, not only did they give some really good performances, but they worked very well together. I thought that their chemistry was undeniable, and they have a blooper reel at the end of the movie, and you can just see how they were friends, and how they weren't working on set because they had to. They were just friends, and they just wanted to work together. It's not a super entertaining movie, but it's got some entertainment factor. There's a lot of bad things around it that will take you out of it, but overall it is entertaining. And the action is entertaining. Like, The Rock beats people up with a banana. That was really fun and entertaining. But there's quite a few bad things about this movie. Like, the opening scene really dragged out and just not a funny scene at all. And that's another issue with the movie. It's not funny. I think I smiled once, but I never really laughed. And that was really hard for me because it was a comedy. And I could tell that they were going for the laughs at a few moments, but not many other people in my theater were laughing. And a lot of the comedy is also spoiled in the trailer. That was kind of hard to get through. The ending is super cheesy. It is just so sappy and sentimental. I hated the ending. And the drama, they try for a drama in the movie, and it just doesn't work well. And the tone is just insanely inconsistent. It goes from a comedy to a drama to an action like that, and the tone was just insanely inconsistent. But overall, Central Intelligence is entertaining, just not memorable at all, and that's why I give it a 5.75 out of 10. Alright, 2 more reviews to go. The next one is The Shallows. Now, shark movies have sort of become a joke recently, with Jurassic Shark and a ton of other just dumb shark movies, and really, none have been able to surpass Jaws. Jaws, an amazing movie about sharks, just a great movie. And The Shallows, I was going in hoping that we would get a movie that would be better than most of the Sharks movies. And this is the best shark movie since Jaws, but it's not the greatest film. It's a good movie, but it's just not memorable in any way, shape, or form. It's very forgettable, and you can go in and watch it and think, oh, okay, this is a fine movie, this is entertaining, I'd pop this in on a rainy day if I were bored. But it's just, there's nothing memorable about it. The suspense does work well. It's a suspenseful thriller, and they do succeed in going for that genre because it's quite a suspenseful movie. I was on my seat a lot, and how when she's literally just going a few inches away from the rock that she's on to grab something, there's suspense, and that worked really well because it made it seem like every single of her movements were very important. It was a good length, too. A lot of people said that it should have been an hour, but I thought that the 1 hour and 27 minute runtime was very, very well done. Another part is that this movie isn't predictable at all. It's just simply not. I thought that it would be predictable, and because I knew the real life story, yet at the same time I thought if I didn't know the real life story, I'm not sure if she would make it out of it or not. And the score is very good, and the shark looks pretty great. The CGI on him was very well done. But there are some bad things about this movie. There's way too much slow motion. There's literally slow motion of Blake Lively literally just like starting on a surfboard into the water, and you don't need slow motion there. Use slow motion correctly. That wasn't very well used, and it's a very unrealistic movie. Just how she ends up, spoiler alert, skip 10 seconds, how she ends up killing the shark is just insanely unrealistic. I didn't get that at all. And just the movie as a whole feels unrealistic. You don't believe that certain things would happen. You feel like they were all staged for a movie, which is weird to have during a movie that's based on a true story. But overall, I did enjoy The Shallows, and that's why I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Alright, final review. Here we go. So, my final review is for the BFG, which is the next Steven Spielberg movie that just came out. Now, Steven Spielberg is one of my favorite directors. I've seen 23 of his films, and I like the majority of them, and I love some of them. He's even directed 2 films in my top 10, Minority Report and Duel. So I was very excited to go see the BFG, and I can say that this is a pretty good movie. The motion capture on the giant was just extraordinary. Mark Rylance, he looked human enough, yet he also looked like a giant. It was a really nice combination of the two, and I love how he made Sophie look, very small, yet the other giants made him look very small. That was really well done, the perspective on the movie. The lead actors, they both do a very good job at their roles. Mark Rylance and whoever played Sophie. Sophie, she's got a career ahead of her. She's a great young actress. The art direction is also great. It looks like a Roald Dahl movie, which is the biggest compliment I could give it, because Roald Dahl writes these weird fantasy books, and they really made it look like a Roald Dahl movie. It captures a sense of magic, especially with the lighting in the movie. It captures a sense of magic. There's a scene where they're eating food. It's just a really, really funny scene. It's a really enjoyable scene, and it just proves that fart jokes can be funny if you use them correctly. And the chemistry among Sophie and the big friendly giant, it was just an undeniable chemistry, and it was really well done. Now, there are some bad things. It's a really bad edited movie. Like, the first 2 acts of it feel like they're all exposition. Or, like, the first act feels like all exposition, the second act feels like nothing, and then the third act is when things start actually happening. It is slightly childish, in more ways than one. You think, yeah, if this was aiming to be more of a PG-13 film, that wouldn't happen, because it feels like it was just made for the children to enjoy. And it's not very funny. There are a few things that are funny in it, like the food eating scene, but besides that, I wasn't laughing at all. And the first 2 acts, they're incredibly slow. They sort of feel dull just because of how slow they are. But the third act, that was a great part of the movie, and that is why I give the BFG a 7 out of 10. Alright, that is 10 reviews in 1. Well, that concludes them all. Alright, I am Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.